Hello and welcome everybody to, I guess, Pianocraft Hour here in the Friday morning time. And my name is David. I'm a technician, and this is Stacy. And together we run the Artisan School, which is where I'm at right now. Last week it got super bright, so I have this big old black thing in front of me because it got crazy. It was crazy last week. So today I'm hoping that I don't get blinded by this. Blinded by the light. Isn't that a song, Stacy?
Yeah, it is.
Anyways, we're going to talk Pianocraft. For those that are just joining, hey, I know piano technology, but what's Pianocraft? Pianocraft is just I feel like it's the embodiment of what we do in piano servicing. It's piano craft. It's the textures, the leathers, the materials, just the whole essence of it. And so that's what we like to term. That's the term we like to use here. So today I'm talking about the repair that every technician out there needs to know. And Logan, you're kind of cracking up because I know that you've broken at least one. Have you done it? Unless you're going to be okay. Let's pause.
Yes.
I'll just preface this. I've never met a technician, and I'm curious, a technician that's been doing this for any length of time as a career that has not broken a grand hammer shank.
Not my fault. But there was some debris in there and caused a hammer being up. But yeah, I'm very careful about pulling that action.
You're probably the closest that I've ever come to somebody not doing it and that's huge. Because I know Mark Cirizano has broken a hammer shank or two, sliding the action out, right, Mark?
Yeah.
It's one of those things that, let me see if I can try to simulate it. Because for those that are watching, they're like, what are we talking about? Hold on. One minute.
I was at a convention once, and this guy was demonstrating how to take the action out of the piano. And
at a convention?
Yeah, and his friend, he goes behind him. While he's taking it out, he has a hammer shank in his hand. He walks behind him and breaks it while he's pulling it out. And he didn't skip a beat. He knew it. He didn't break it because he couldn't feel it. But anyway.
Oh my gosh. So what we're talking about is the grand action that is meant to be slid out of the piano as you're doing servicing. So with an upright piano, you're able to do a vast amount of regulation and servicing with the action in the piano. Whereas a grand piano, you have to, for the most part, whenever you're wanting to do a lot of major servicing, you slide that action out. And in doing so, what happens, it's usually at the first and the last because you're pulling the action with your left and right hand. And if you're not careful, you could be accidentally, ever so slightly, pressing down a key. And as you slide it out, what happens is this. You're pulling it out, and this hammer breaks on the way out. It catches like the bottom of the pin block, bottom of the plate. It pulls, and then you snap. And that is what happens. The last one time it happened to me, I had a heavy tool on one side of the piano that I didn't notice, and it was pressing down one of the sharps. And so that's what happened. And
what I recommend our students is that you actually go down and look at all the hammers, because if there's a tight center pin,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, actually look down in there into the cavity of the piano to see are any hammers, and they go really slow. If it stops at some point, if it's coming out and it stops, pause and go look. And you're going to
a lot of friction, even if none of the hammers are up. There's a lot of friction there. So even if a hammer gets stuck against the pin block, you're not really the increased friction that you kind of don't notice it, right? And you think, oh, the spring is really tight. I got it really pull.
Right. No, they're totally right about that. Yeah, you'll think that leaf spring or whatever, that big old spring is just intense. But what's going to happen is this.
Have you ever wondered what it takes to become a piano technician or what that even looks like? The Explorer course is just that. It allows you to explore the world of Pianocraft. Within this course, you're able to go and learn everything from the inception of the piano to how it works and how to tune it. This is the perfect course that allows you to start the process of becoming a piano technician to really understand what it is and whether it's right for you. If you have any questions about any of the courses we provide, simply go to theartisanschool.com.
You're going to come, it's going to pull, and we're going to have something like this. It's usually pressure like this, and then all of a sudden, that's what happens. Now, I need to preface this and say, out of the probably dozen times that this has happened over 25 years, for me, the vast majority of times I've been able to glue it back together. So it usually breaks in a way where there's enough wood fibers to be able to press put a little bit of wood glue on there, press everything back together, let it glue while I'm tuning the piano, and call it good. For the most part, that's what happens. So you're going to have 3 breaks. One that's like this, and because this has a little bit of these fibers, and it's fitting back together, I would probably attempt to try to glue that back. But that's one break where it's possible you can glue it back. The second break is when there was a long break. So that is, it's not just at the head, it kind of breaks kind of mid shank, and we have these 2 long pieces together that we're able to glue back. That's a fairly easy thing to do, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're going to assume, hey, we can't glue this back, so we need to go ahead and figure out a way to repair this. And essentially, what we're going to be doing is grafting a new portion of hammer shank to this original hammer shank right here. Now, this is my preferred method, as opposed to getting a replacement shank or a universal shank. We've talked about that before, where you can buy a universal shank that has an elongated hole that allows you to move this into different positions so that it fits, every grand piano. The problem with this, and I've talked about this before, I want to make it look like nothing has ever happened. This is a totally original piano. And where you're working on a 100-year-old piano that has like this darkened wood, and you got this bone white brand new shank, that just bugs the snot out of me. So that's what we're going to work on today, is figure out how do we graft and replace a hammer shank and do all this so that everything looks seamless. And I'm going to show you right here, this shank right here has actually been grafted. And can you see, Mark, can you see that little line, Logan? Can you? That little line right there is all you can see. And I could probably even disguise it even more. But that is what we're going to be going for as professionals, as just awesome technicians. That's what we're going to learn how to do. Questions so far? Does everybody have access to a grand piano to go and break the shank to? Yes, Jeff. He's like, as soon as I'm done here, I'm doing it.
So the goal is to keep the same color shank?
The goal is to minimize the new shank's appearance with the old. Like, I'm grafting a new piece of shank onto an older shank, and in hopes I'm going to disguise it enough to make it so that nobody would ever know. And the technicians that follow my work are going to be like, actually, that's kind of nice. That looks good. And so the things that you're going to need to have on hand are so. Can you see this? Okay. It's kind of dark, but maybe I'll do this. I'm a big fan of Titebond, not Titebond 3, not Titebond 2, but whatever reason, I like Titebond. Kind of do with that what you will, but I use Titebond. I'm going to use my nifty hair straightener. You can use a heat gun as well to loosen the glue joint. You're going to need to have on hand some kind of a shank extractor. So this is a grand shank extractor, and it allows you to, after you've heated up the hammerhead, press out that original portion of shank within the hammerhead. So that's a grand hammer shank extractor. This is a nifty tool, and I used to have a homemade version of this until Supply 88 came out with this. I'm going to demonstrate this, but this is how we're going to be cutting the shank and replacement shank together. You're going to need to have, your Phillips and flathead screwdrivers, several different styles of clamps. I like to have this like little baby guy right here, as well as kind of a mid-sized clamp. And then I usually have a larger clamp just in case I have to clamp it in a weird way. I like to have a piece of sandpaper and a sanding paddle on hand, a couple extra shanks, and a little bit of thread or yarn, as well as a replacement shank on hand. So this is a perfect kit to have in like one of those little, plastic bins. So you just have this stored in your car, you label it, and it's like right there. And so it's yes, Eric, your cat is just adorable. What's your cat's name?
All right, yeah, his name is Bob.
Bob? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I was like, I hope it's either a whimsical name or something very much like Bob.
Yep.
So when this happens to you, don't panic. I don't mean to be like manifesting this happening to you all, but I'm just saying when it happens to you, and just know that when and if it does, that's okay. What we're going to do is slowly pull out the action, take a deep breath, and we're going to get to work. And the first thing you're going to do is just remove the broken hammer and shank. So pull it out, and I'm going to get started on this right away. Why? Because there's going to be a bunch of stuff that needs to dry. And so in the course of this 1.5-hour service call, I'll be in a good spot, but I need to get started right away. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is take the original shank, and I'm going to thread it through this guy right here. So this is available at Supply 88, and I don't know the name of it. It's like a shank cutting jig. I think it's something along those lines. And so I'm going to be threading it through there, and what I'm looking to do is I want to make a cut with this shank so that I don't want to cut it down here where it's that octagonal portion. As much of this circular, like rounded portion is what I want to cut, because that's what my replacement shank is. It's rounded, it's not octagonal. And so I want to go ahead and make sure that I'm cutting right here. And so I'm going to thread this through this tool just enough so that I know that's where I'm hitting. And if you look at kind of daylight, yeah. Mark, if you're listening and watching this from Supply 88, I have a suggestion. If there's a way to make this clear, that would be cool. Is if you made this like super clear so you could actually see how much of this shank is in there and not. Just food for thought. Not complaining, just suggesting. Okay. Another way you can do this is just kind of look visually. Okay, if I push it in that far, that should be right. So with it in there, we can go ahead and start. Let's do this. Using our saw, we can go ahead and start to make this cut. This is super dull because I've used it so many times teaching. We've had multiple classes, so bear with me. Morning, Rebecca.
Hi.
We're just breaking stuff and trying to fix it. Oh, I'm going to mention this really quick as soon as I'm done cutting this. Yeah, it shouldn't take this long. So if you have a nice saw, it should cut it really easily. But right there, that's what we just did. We just cut this. And if you notice, this is the important thing to remember. If you notice the way that I cut this is straight up and down. And so the way I cut this is at this angle. How do I explain this? Okay, so this is like the top view. See how it's just kind of cut from right to left or left to right? That's what we're looking for, as opposed to if I were to turn this and having it cut the other way. How do I explain this better? And Mark, you can chime in if you have a better engineer explanation for this. But essentially what we're wanting this to do is the hammer is going to move up towards the string, like so. Okay, so there's a lot of pressure right here that may be on that joint. If we make it so that this joint is connected at the bottom, like there's a bottom cut and a top cut, that may fail. So the way we remedy that is make sure that we do a side angle cut from the top down. Logan, does that make sense? Am I saying that right?
So basically you want it 90 degrees from the hammer instead of 180.
I think. Basically, if you're looking down, go ahead, Mark.
The glue is stronger in a shear force direction. That's why it's vertical.
Yeah.
Yeah, what Mark said. I like that. So it's stronger in a shear force direction. So make sure you're cutting it at an angle this way as opposed to having an angle that way, because it could fail. So, by the way, if you don't have this tool, that's okay. What I used to use is just a block of sand, like a sandpaper block with like 80 grit, and I would just slowly create this angle, this cut right here. So you can do that, but this just makes it a little bit more accurate, I would say. So you're going to do the same thing with the hammer shank. So I'm going to thread that through this little tool, and we're going to cut this hammer shank as well. And if I remember right, Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is part of the RPT exams. At least it used to be when I did it. It was like, yeah, you have to be able to fix a grand hammer shank like this. Is that right?
Yeah, when I was doing it, this is the first time I've ever seen it done this way.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I do think you're right, David. I think because I'm preparing to do the technical, and I believe that's one of the items that's on there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. And so having these tools on hand, especially a sharper version, a brand new version of this, is going to be nice. And so, but you can see, like, this is literally what we just did. And that is just gorgeous. They meet up perfect. And so what I typically do is put a little bit of glue. I totally, like yesterday, prepped everything. I'm super proud of myself. I never do that. And I also have like a glued, dried version of this to show you. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So I put a little bit of glue on there. And I like to not use a clamp, but I like to use a little bit of this thread. It just seems to kind of hold things together. I can manipulate it a bit. But you know me, am I going to leave that thread on there forever? No, I cannot stand that. I am sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I'm not even sorry. Technicians, please don't leave the thread on there forever. I'm not even, it just doesn't look right. And the other day I pulled an action out, and literally the customer, we pulled it out together, and a technician at some point in the past had left like a bunch of thread because they had broken a shank, and they left it. And the customer's like, "Ooh, what's that?" I'm like, yes, that's exactly the reaction. Ooh, what's that? So once it's done drying, just remove it. And I get it that if it's like, well, it happened at the end of the service call, I have to leave it, come back to it at some point, because it's just, what are we doing? We're leaving footprints and taking memories. That's it. So I'm going to let that dry throughout the service call. So as this is drying, I'm going to move on from here to the hammer head itself. Okay. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and get this going. And again, I have my hair straighteners. I'm borrowing them from Dan over there because he uses hair straighteners. So I'm borrowing it. And we're just going to start. We're going to start doing this. By the way, a female technician colleague of mine, she showed me this like 10 years ago, and it just blew my mind. I'm like, what, a hair straightener? And she's like, oh yeah, dude, this is like the thing to do. And I've been using it ever since for this. It's worked so well. And it's just like, what? I never thought of this. So I usually have it on a medium heat. Sometimes I go high heat. I'm just going to leave it there for like 30 seconds. And then we're going to use our shank extractor right here. This is our grand hammer shank extractor. These are available at Schaff. And all this stuff should stay in your kit, in the shank repair kit. Okay, so I could feel that heated up. Oh, I didn't do the thing I should have done. Can anybody guess what I should have done ahead of time?
Drill a small hole.
Take a guess.
Get rid of the glue collar.
Who said that? Dan? 100%. Yes, that's exactly it. I didn't get rid of the glue collar. I have to do that. Hold on. So yeah, what Dan just said, I should have gotten rid of this glue collar right here. So you can kind of pick at it. Some glues are easier to get removed. If it's a horsehide glue, it'll kind of flake off. If it's PVC, it'll just kind of rip off. But yeah, you want to remove this glue collar. It'll make your life a lot easier. Yeah, this is probably one of the more stressful of the RPT, portions of the, exam, just because it's like, okay, I hope this is right. You do have plenty of time. I can't remember the exact time, but you do have plenty of time to do it. But you do have to be efficient with your time, and having a kit for every, and by the way, yeah, Rebecca, if you're going to take your RPT exam, having a kit for every repair, like, that's what I did, and I just pulled everything off. And I showed up with this massive, airport, travel thing with all these different kits, and they kind of looked at me like, whoa, he's definitely prepared.
I've actually already started doing that with, I've got a string repairing kit, and I have everything separated. Some of them are repeat tools, which is nice, but I typically have everything, and I'm not very prepared in the way of that. I have lovely fancy bags, so I'm using big freezer Ziploc bags, just to sort them and keep them in my primary bag.
That's a good idea.
But it's a great way to organize it, and it's quick just to pull it out instead of digging around and wasting time doing that. So that's yeah.
It's so true. It doesn't, you're focused on passing and getting the work done right, and how you get there. I think I had a tackle box.
Every minute adds up, and every minute is incredibly important when you're under pressure, for sure.
That's right. That's so true. All right, so we're pressing that shank out. The original hammer shank is getting pressed out. Here we go. Lovely. So usually I'll have another, like a drill bit within a small hand, drill, and just kind of clean it out. But that's it. So we have our two portions of it right here. They're ready to go. And so at this point, we're probably going to move on to some tuning and servicing of the piano itself, because I want this to dry for another 45 minutes. Luckily, we're going to go in our time machine and move 45 minutes later. And here we go. We can just see how our work is. We're removing that thread. And what we're left with is this. So it's not too bad. It's nice and it's in line. That's important. But usually from here, I'll go ahead and start using my sanding paddle and just cleaning up everything. And I like to use a sanding paddle right here because it allows me to keep that flat octagonal. I'm able to mirror this octagonal shape right at this point. So here we go. So I'm just kind of rounding it, slowly moving the shank so that I'm being consistent with those angles, those hard angles. Yeah, and this is, I'm sorry, but this is really where the artistry comes in, because you get to, this is where I really enjoyed the craft. It's like, because it's these things. I mean, tuning is great, that's fine. But when you're doing repairs like this, granted, if you're the one who messed it up, it's not great. But it's still fun to be able to just do the higher level of work. I'm just going to kind of clean up that. Boy, and it almost becomes invisible right there. You see that? That's I don't know if you can see that. That's pretty clean. That's what we're looking at. But sometimes I do this. I remember I don't know why. This just cracks me up. Could you imagine? Just we just left it like that. Just a giant hammer. So this is what we're going to be left with. Yeah, it does look like a square grand hammer. But this is what we're left with, this giant shank like this. And then our hammerhead that's, had the shank removed. And so from here, what I do is, let's just remove this one. We can start installing everything. Let's do it this way. So usually at this point, I've like tuned the piano and I can go ahead and start putting everything kind of back together. And so I'm just going to go ahead and, one of these things is not like the other. I can go and just do a quick marking of like, okay, I know. And you don't have to put it, fully in, but I just kind of mark it so that I know, okay, here's how much I know I need to cut. Take my little saw. And by the way, they have these Japanese pole saws that just work really good and they're really small. This is not one of those. I think this came with that Supply 88 jig. And it was great for the beginning, but now I feel like it's just too dull. But I probably used it like 50 times over the last year, just in teaching classes. So, oh my gosh. Okay, see that? That's what you have to be careful with. And so, luckily, we have this going. So it's going to be fine. But this is where we talk about the right tool. So I've never had that happen using, typically what I do is I actually use some kind of like like end nippers and just do a basic cut. But this is the first time I've tried to make this cut with a saw. And maybe it would work if you're using like a sharp saw or whatever, when it has like more teeth. But I think that it was Dan or Logan. Dan or Logan uses one of those cigar crimpers. Is that what it's called?
No, a doggy toenail clipper.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. And then Mark said he gets it at like Petco.
Or Chef Piano, right?
Or Chef. Here's oh, is that what it is?
Yep.
Logan, can you pull it up? Oh my gosh. That's pretty gnarly. And so is that the shaft one?
Yes, I got this one from Shaft.
Yeah, but Logan, you got to take your time, maybe go around the thing so you don't just, do it in one big.
Yeah, one snip that's all it takes.
Really?
I'm too cautious. Yeah. I got to go around in circles and
just kind of score a line around it.
One snip takes it.
So
one thing I also use is a hammer reducing tool sometimes, hammer shank reducing tool, because sometimes those new dowels are a little larger than the hammer hole. Yeah, that's right. So, and by the way, when we've done this with the upright hammer shanks, we have to create this like, when we're putting the shank like in the hammerhead and in the hammer butt, we have to make like a little channel. By the way, Rebecca, they're going to score you on that. You have to make a little channel in the hammer shank of the upright so that the glue can come out. And they're going to ask, well, did you put a channel in there? You say yes. But with the Grand, in doing this with the Grand, we don't really do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and pre-cut this a little bit. Gets a little closer to that finish line while this is gluing. But but you had mentioned, Logan, I think, that you kind of ream this out using that shank reducer. I typically kind of just rough up the shank where it's going to be with a little bit of heavy grit sandpaper. That way I know it's going to bond well. Now, I'm curious, with those that have been doing this for a while, what your opinion is on PVC glue versus wood glue versus hide glue. Because that's a big question in the industry. And so Dan, Mark, Logan, you guys have been doing it for a while.
Well, it depends on the situation. If you're putting on all new hammers, I like using the hot hide glue because if there's ever a mistake, pop it off. You could turn it, whatnot, and not like the good smell of hot glue in the morning.
Oh my gosh!
But if I'm on the what do you call it on the job, but I'll do one more thing that you didn't do. You'll use the thing to rough it up. I'll take any type of my pliers that have like the little jaw marks on there and lightly press it around the circle for the glue to kind of.
Oh, I love that. That's a really good tip. Yeah, that's a really good tip. And you're right though, Daniel. When we were doing a lot of restoration, we would always use hot hide glue because I don't know. Luthiers have been using that for centuries, and it works really well. And like what Dan said, is you're able to remove it in the future very easily. I'm not sure. I mean, wood glue, no, that sucker's on there. And so I've started leaning more in the field using PVC glue. That being said, I've not come back to my work on these ones because it's only been the last year. But I'm wondering, Mark or Dan or Logan, if you've been using PVC glue and does it seem to hold up just fine?
I've never used it. I've just used. I mean, I've had Elmer's glue all, because they used to sell the little kid size for for the in school. It fits real nice, and I would dump it out and put Titebond in there,
right.
And just use that. Yeah, I mean, you're just doing a hammer. I mean, where's it going to go?
I only use PCE glue on key tops. I tend to use hide glue on hammer heads. I don't tend to use the hot hide glue. I just use the off the shelf hide glue, and wood glue I tend to use for other action parts.
So
I have, and then
I'm not actually a fan.
Stuff.
I've used. Have you done this, Dan? Where you use that? It's not called hot hide glue, but it is a hide glue. But it's like you buy it and you're not meant to heat it up. It's like a cold hide glue. Have you used that before?
I hate it.
I do too.
I mean, it stinks.
I do too.
I mean, it stinks. I used it once to glue a spinet leg once. I forgot, let me try this. It's supposed to make it really tight. And sure enough, as soon as I screwed it on, it thing cracked again on me. Oh,
okay. I'm not alone there because I've never had success with that stupid stuff.
Right. No.
All right. Okay. So it's not just me.
Yeah, but Logan's old school, so.
Logan's old school. Yeah. Okay. The thing that I'm actually excited, fate would have it, my little blunder is actually good because we get to do this, and that is I'm going to go ahead and retie this so that it's a lot cleaner and smaller of a tie, like so. I'm going to snip this, and because we're out of time, right? We're done with the service call, and we don't have the time because the next service call is due. So we need to leave this. But after I'm done with this, because my OCD is going to kick in, I'm going to call Stacy and say, Stacy, can you please set me a service call to come back to this customer's house in a week so that I can remove this stupid thing and clean it up? And she's going to say, yeah, that sounds great. So I'm actually going to leave this in piano. So we're going to do the same thing that we were doing. We're going to go ahead and install this. And we're gonna go ahead.
I gotta ask: Have you ever had one re-crack on you after it's in the piano and the client calls you? That same one broke again. No. I got
no.
Maybe I got on the call late, but I'm assuming you're showing how to do it versus just put on a new one. Unless you're working on a piano from the 1800s where you can't get one and this is your only choice.
Oh, okay, Dan, we're talking philosophy now. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. Right.
Yeah, we talked about that. For me,
I'm sorry, I was late.
You're late. I'll catch you up. I'll catch you up as I drink my coffee. I'm a big fan of making it so that I was never there. I'm a big fan of being like, hey, there was no technician, no nothing ever there. So for me, if I'm looking at this historic shank and flange, and I break it, I don't want to put a bone white, brand new hammer, shank, and flange in there because it just bugs me. And this is a preference. So yes, you can put a universal hammer, shank, flange in there. You can go ahead and do that. But for me, I would rather do this so that worst case scenario, there's a little bit of bone white new piece on my old one, as opposed to like a white tooth amidst a, brown teeth.
Well, that's why you hit it with a little bit of spray toner and it matches.
I would know. So again,
but no one else would know. The dog wouldn't know,
I'd know. So, but to your point, yes, this is for those that are like, hey, like Rebecca just said, she's going to be taking her RPT exams. You're going to need to know how to do this, with that. So I've crimped this. I'm just going to go ahead and just do a basic dry fit. That feels good. So now, but you're right, Dan. And I have done that in the past where I'm like, man, I don't have the time. I can't get this fixed. I'm just going to go ahead and put a universal shank and flange on there. I've done it. But for me, I don't know.
Yeah, but you could keep a can of spray toner in your car and you just kind of hit it with that toner a little bit and it darkens it, blends it. And, heck, I've been on places where I've actually gone outside and got a little dirt and just rubbed it.
I've done the same thing with coffee and dirt and tea. I don't know. Maybe it's a flex. Maybe it's like, hey, I'm going to be able to push myself and I'm going to do it this way.
Or you're OCD.
It's weird because if you look at my car, you would be like, what slob lives in this thing?
All right, I'm going to send you a picture of my car. We'll compare.
Please don't.
No, mine's worse. I have horrible.
I'm OCD to the max when it comes to my work and this type of thing. The school, the space, our courses are what we teach. But when it comes to other things, it's like Slobville. I am so embarrassed. It's so bad. And Stacy's laughing because she knows it. Stacy, you know it too. You're like, no
yeah,
problem.
I would concur with you on that. We can choose sometimes our battles. Although, if we had enough time, I think we would do it with everything, honestly.
Okay, here's a hot take. Here's a question. I've heard this, and I don't know if this is correct or not. I've heard that tacky glue is very much basically PVC glue. Is that true or not? Does anybody know about that? Okay, so nobody can confirm. Well, I'm going to do a little test. I'm going to put tacky glue on this and just see in a week if it's held and if it's good. So this is what we're doing because I got this adorable little bottle of this. Tacky glue is easy to work with. It's actually dries kind of transparent, which will match the glue. Again, matching what's already there. We'll match the glue of the other hammers. So here we go. Make sure that when you're putting this on, you do a rotation. Hold on. You do a rotation so that we get a nice glue collar. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to pull this off so you can see it. So whatever glue you're going to use, if you're going to use Tide Bond, you're going to use hot hide glue, cold hide glue, you want to have that nice little collar, that bead right there. And that's what you're.
How much play do you have in that hammer, front and back, for adjustment? I mean, when you're test fitting it for maybe some of the people that are,
Ooh, that's a good point. I have very little, but enough, just enough to be able to move this front or back a little bit. I don't want it to be swimming in it, but just enough. That's a good point, Dan, is when I'm doing the dry fit, I want there to be a little bit just in case. But
yeah, you don't want to press the key and it catch too soon.
Right. Okay, the last thing that you're going to do before you walk away with this, now that you've kind of installed it, is you want to make sure that the angle of it is going to be in line. So you can see right there that this is over too much to the right. So you want to make sure that this is just angled, and you want to go ahead and move it upwards to travel it, if you will, with the other. So I want that space to remain consistent. That's squaring it off. You also want to make sure that it's in line with the others. Now, granted, this is is not the same, hammer or whatever with the other hammers, but you would want to make sure it's in line with the other hammers as well. And so by manipulating that, so I'm going to just do this. Okay. A little bit of finesse work, because I'm going to come back in a week. I'm going to slice that off. I might do a little bit of burning and traveling when I come back, just to kind of double check everything, but that's going to be good to go. And that's literally how you do it. So if you need to leave it here, that's fine. I recommend coming back in the 6 months or a year when they're doing the tuning, just remove it. Or you can do a page out of my book and just like, no, that's the car situation. I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to leave that for another day.
Do you not file down that little tail of shank that comes through?
That's a good point. That's a great point. Answer to your question, yes. Thank you. Usually there's a little bit more popping out, but to your question, Logan, this would be acceptable for me because I know I'm going to come back later. But yeah, usually I'll take sandpaper, sanding paddle, and I'll just like clean up everything. But again, I will have usually done this and not leaving it in this glued state like this. Usually I will have done a better repair. So by the time I'm done with the service call, all the glue's dry and I can sand it easily and we're off to the races, no problem. But in this case, everything's still kind of wet. And so I'm just going to leave that. Questions about that? Is anybody else like OCD with their work, but not with other things? Is that a thing? Okay. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, for me, it's the coils around a tuning pin when I replace a string.
That's a good one. Jeff, what about you? Are you saying that you're that way?
You should see the mess that I have specifically hidden off camera. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But yes, I'm exactly like that. Yes.
See, now if I'm at a client's home on bass strings, I do the new string versus I've had too many strings where I tie the knot and then it just never tunes right. But which is fine. I mean, sometimes after I measure the string, I drop ship it to the client's house, and it's up to them to call me to come put it on.
How long have you been doing that?
Like this at my house, and I'd forget about it.
We just started doing that, Dan, a year ago, and it changed because we have so many technicians ordering strings and stuff like that. It's just like, and so yeah, that's what.
Now, where do you guys order your strings from? I'm curious.
We do several. We've done Mapes, Schaff, JD Grant. There's also the Heller based strings, like you can buy them from there. Yeah.
Arledge is not in business anymore, and he is in fact selling his.
Oh, that's right. I heard about that.
He's got 2 huge machines. You can buy these 2 machines.
Oh, I can't wait.
Business opportunity. Strings.
Yeah, there were some.
I'm sorry, but that sounds like the worst job. I am sorry. Making bass strings, this sounds like the worst job for me.
I remember there was some technician running around. He had one of those machines in his van, and but it's like they had to be horribly tarnished, those strings. I can't imagine.
He's like, I just broke a string. I'll be right back. You just go and make a string in your van.
Yeah,
that's epic.
Absolutely amazing. Yes.
That's next level. I'm going to leave you guys. I'm going to leave you guys with an amazing tip. And I learned about this over the last week because it's getting hot here. It's getting hot here in Oregon. And I'm like, I usually wear the button down, the chambray shirts. And I'm like, this is getting hot. So I decided last week to wear a white shirt. And that lasted half a service call. And it got stained up. And I was like, okay, it can't get any worse than that. And then this last week, I wore a black shirt. And that was a million times worse. Because what I did, literally the first service call of Monday, they're like, hey, can you fix the pedal problems on my Grand? No problem. I crawl up under there. I'm doing all this stuff. And I come out and I felt like a Yeti. They had these dogs. And my entire back, the rest is just like massive amounts of husky hair. And I couldn't get it off. I couldn't reach. I almost asked the customer, can you just pad me off? It was gross.
Bring a blanket. Yeah.
No, tech tip. Don't even think about everything I've done here unless don't wear a black shirt to service calls. Don't do it. Don't do it.
That's why I use
That's
a
all I
heather
got.
gray polo shirt. You know, it is what
There
I'm
you
wearing
go.
today, actually.
Yeah, that's good.
So I used to have
got a
white
question. I got a
polo
question for
shirts
all you
and
old.
had the same exact problem. I went to the
You have
heather
the same
gray.
problem?
I don't particularly care for gray for color wise, but the heather gray does minimize some of that, the sweat staining, the your dust mopping of the floor staining, and or even the backside of an upright dusty
Right.
staining. Because I move pianos too, so I'm all over the piano. But yeah, that's what I use, a heather gray.
Can't believe we're talking about piano tuner fashion. This is and Daniel Glazer
yeah.
with Chanel. Yes. Hey, I
Is
got
anybody
questions for
else
some of the
going?
old timers here. A Kimball La Petite Grand. The insert on the pedal, that big white plastic piece broke. Anyone know where I could get one?
You could actually get those, I believe, from Schaff.
Really?
Yes. If you look through their catalog, they have an assortment of those plasticky.
This is a long one-piece one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in Schaff.
Oh, all right.
So try that. All right, I'm gonna kind of. Stacy, what time is it?
Yeah, we're getting close to.
All right, I'm just gonna say, if you guys, I don't know how long. By the way, I don't know how long we're gonna be doing these, but a lot of people are asking, okay, well, what happens if I miss it? You know, we do literally what we're doing here. We do 3 times. What is that in the Inglourious Bastards when he? Sorry. 3 times, so you have to do it a certain way. Anyways, 3 times. We do this 3 times, thanks to Steven. He knew what I was talking about. 3 times a week. Literally this same thing all week long with our students, our members. It's $95 a month. You do not have to commit to anything, but you're going to get this 3 times a week. I don't know how long we're going to be doing this on this channel, but for those that are interested, I know Eric and Steven are there. They're literally hopping on the next one where we get into the business, into all the nitty gritty. So those who are watching, they're like, you know what, this could be helpful 3 days a week, or come here to the school and meet with myself or other instructor, Stacy. And then we do online courses. So there's a lot to learn, and you're not going to get it all just from a simple one video here and there. And so I'm a big fan. That's why we created the mentoring, which is like all week long. Hey, you said that last Monday and now it's Friday. Can we go back to that? Yes. Let's pull the actions out. Let's go ahead and look at technique. Let's do this. What we've seen our technicians, our students do is go from, I took an online course, I don't know what I'm doing, to now I'm running a successful business and I'm quitting my job. And we're with them every step of the way. So if you are interested in that, go ahead and contact us. Steven, Eric, I will see you guys in a minute. For the rest of you, have a great weekend. And don't break any shanks and don't wear black shirts. I'll see you guys later.
Everyone, have a good week. Bye.